Good morning. My name is John Spadaccini. I'm with Career Services.
I'm Michael O'Donnell with Mother Teresa Project.
Today is day 15, Head of the Holy Family.
Pray for us. So today, I like to reflect on Ephesians 5 and the specific verse, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ loved the church. And I think if we look at how Christ loved the church, and you want to get a picture of that, just look at a crucifix. And that's how much Christ loved the church. He was willing to lay down his life and die a bloody, painful death for the church. And for us, for the married, looking at my wife and looking at my family, and then looking at the cross, constantly reminded of how passionate my love is supposed to be for my family. And how they're supposed to be above everything else, and this idea that I'm willing to lay down my life for them. And I think sometimes as Catholics we like to, maybe not romanticize, but just think about, I'd be so willing if someone came up and said, you know, I'm going to kill you right now if you do this bad thing, like I would definitely do it, or, you know, and we think, well, if we were in a similar situation as maybe the martyrs in the first century of the church, we would definitely stand up right next to them because those stories like motivate us. You know, when Peter leaving the city of Rome, but then he turns around and goes back and gets crucified. Like I always find those stories to be so attractive and motivating, and I find myself, oh, if I was in that position, I'd definitely do the same thing. But sometimes we don't have the strength to do the smaller sacrifices. We want the big glory. We want that idea of these large sacrifices I'm so willing to do. But the smaller sacrifices, you know, cleaning up the house when I'm not asked to, you know, coming home on time, cooking a meal for my wife, or doing the small things that maybe are discomforting to us, but are that sacrifice just the same. When we talk about fortitude, in the back with the virtues here, it said that slow, painful death of martyrdom. Being able to go through that without complaining, a lifelong martyrdom. I think that's something that St. Joseph did very well, right? Every day sacrificing for his family, and it wasn't this glorious sacrifice of martyrdom of blood, but a martyrdom of that day-to-day intentional focus on the family. So that's what I got today. Sorry, it's kind of a lot there, but that focus on the family. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
So, you know, God, you know, head of the Holy Family. So, you know, God created families and designated fathers to be the head of their families. And in today's world, it's kind of counterintuitive, because a lot of people say that's kind of sexist, you know,
Right.
Father isn't like the king of the family. But, you know, and then some say, well, that makes women subordinate. But, you know, it's not the case at all. And, you know, Mary, Mary, the Mother of God, she was the greatest human person that ever lived on this earth. She was greater than St. Joseph.
Okay.
So for fathers to be head of their family, it wasn't, you know, making women subordinate.
Right.
You know, what it's really about is I'm a member of the Knights of Columbus. And in the Knights of Columbus last year, Supreme Knight Carl Anderson and the leadership of the Knights came out with a new program called Building the Domestic Church. And as Catholics, we haven't done a very good job at that. You know, we'll go to Mass on Sunday, but what do we do Monday through Saturday?
Right.
You know, and building the domestic church, they really put the onus on the father to be the leader of his domestic church and to lead his family to Christ and lead his family to heaven. And the Knights of Columbus has some wonderful programs on how to do that. I shouldn't be promoting the Knights of Columbus, but
It's okay.
but I'm a knight.
Absolutely.
And I love the program Building the Domestic Church. And I was thinking, you know, Joseph is our spiritual father. I don't know, have you ever thought about, making St. Joseph the spiritual head of your family and maybe having a special place in your home?
Right.
That's special, maybe having a statue of St. Joseph
Yeah.
so that you can talk to your family about St. Joseph and how he can help your family?
Yeah, no, I haven't thought of it until now. I think that daily reminder of the father that I'm supposed to be, and entrusting our family to St. Joseph will be so powerful for us to have. So it's definitely something I'm looking to do now, that entrustment.
Because like when I lived my consecration to Mary through St. Louis de Montfort,
Yeah.
I bought a statue of Mary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy a statue of St. Joseph now,
Absolutely.
and I'm going to have it in my office. So if any of you want to stop by,
That's right. Be reminded.
You can see my statue of Mary, and I'm going to find a statue of St. Joseph.
Absolutely. No, I think that's great. And the point that you made too of just building the domestic church, that can be a sacrifice, right? Sometimes you have to turn off the TV to have that prayer time. Maybe you cut something else out of your life so you can have more prayer time and intentional formation with your family. And those are the types of small martyrdoms that we can go through in order to fully live out our life as the head of the family. So,
And I was
excellent point.
thinking on that point,
Mhm.
because I have a friend from another faith tradition,
Mhm.
and he can't go to church with his family.
Mhm.
So his tradition is saying, use that time that you go to church, use that time in the home to learn as a family about the teachings.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking what you were just saying, building that domestic church, we have that time, we can't go to church on Sunday. So using that time at home with your family and, doing the mass together, doing the readings together, and just grow in faith.
Yep, absolutely. So important.
And have you ever heard of the Holy House?
I'm not.
So I learned in day 15 that the Holy House is in Nazareth.
Mhm.
And it had moved a couple of times, but I think the final destination was Nazareth.
Mhm.
It's where the Holy Family lived.
Mhm.
So it's also known as the Holy House of Mary and the Holy House of St. Joseph. So I think, probably what I'm going to do after we're done with our conversation, I'm going to Google Holy House
Yeah.
to learn more about it, because I never heard of it until I read about it in day 15.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful place and to bring forth the spiritual realities that come from that. So, excellent. Well, thank you for participating in day 15. Keep reading and chugging along.
See you tomorrow.